Hello, my fellow Ekko Enjoyers. Welcome to this season 14 patch review. I'm gonna be honest, guys. Like, I'm actually pretty excited. I've read through these patch notes already, most of the important stuff, and this might be Ekko's year. Like, it's actually very good for Ekko. I think a lot of these changes are just maybe generally good for the game, and some are like, especially item changes, that they might be really good for Ekko. So yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so first up, like the Void Grubs, the Void Mites. I think I'm just gonna summarize most of this stuff. That's why I read through it already, so I'm not gonna ramble about too much. So what these do, if you kill them, you basically deal more damage to towers, and you don't need to kill all of them, which I think is pretty nice. You can just take like one and then leave. And what happens when you kill one is that the other ones get more HP and they get a shield. So it's definitely going to be difficult maybe to take all of them at once. And overall, I think their health. I have not played any games, by the way. This is just like a blind review, of course, because the patch is not even out yet. I think. I think it's gonna be out in 1 minute. So it seems like they are not gonna be too tanky. Probably around like the same HP, maybe a little bit more tanky than a camp. Um, but yeah, so I think taking one of them might be quite easy, but taking all of them probably not that easy. And then when you have five of them, like you can kill three, and then after 4 minutes, the next one spawns. Like they spawn at 5 minutes, and then if you kill one 4 minutes later, another one will spawn. So if you kill five of them, you will spawn like these small ones, I think, basically. So a little bit like Belvev. If you have five, you will spawn one, and if you killed all six, you will spawn two. So this is just for helping tower pushing, and it affects the whole map, which I think that they did a lot of these kind of changes where it just affects the whole team, which I think is really nice, and I'm a big fan of this. So yeah, we'll see how good Ekko is at taking this, because of course they will spawn at 5 minutes, so Ekko is not very strong at that point, but who knows? Like, I think a lot of this we'll just have to find out when playing. But overall, big fan of this. And then after like 14 minutes, they will despawn, because then the Rift Herald will spawn. So yeah, and also it seems like XP wise, it probably gives basically as much as a camp. Maybe, I don't know, it's kind of hard. Like, I didn't do the math on this. So yeah, definitely a big fan on this though. Like, I like this change a lot. Then the Rift Herald also got changed a little bit. Now you can like ride it, as most of you guys probably saw, which I think is kind of funny. And then also, yeah, you can ride it, and you can ride it into like enemies as well. And one thing I've actually wondered is like if you can just spawn it in a fight really quickly and then start riding it as a way to escape. That's definitely something I want to find out. And also a nice thing they changed to like quality of life wise is that all allied champions who assisted in killing Herald gain a single recall, which I really like this change. I think it's very great quality of life, because most of the time you only wanted one recall anyways, and it always felt kind of bad that only one person got it. And then same with like this change, I really like it. Upon expiring, the Herald will autocast, so like there's not gonna be any more times where you die with it and it feels really bad. And then also, even yeah, if you're dead, the Herald will at least spawn in your team's fountain. So that's a good change. And then also this, right? Like the Rift Herald grants any gold it gains from turret plates to all champions who assisted. So now, for example, if your mid laner helped you and he left afterwards and he didn't get the buff himself, he'll still get something, which I think is a great change. So yeah, stats not really changed. And this one, I really love this one. Like after 20 minutes, the blue and red buffs, they will change like this. And basically now, like, they will be more tanky and stuff, but if you kill them, the whole team gets the buff. So what I think this means is, first of all, like, nobody's gonna be mad anymore. And then second of all, it might also be a good decision to just leave the buff up for objectives to come up, right? Like when the Drake comes up, when the Nash comes up, so you just take the buffs before then, you clear them. So when fighting, the whole team is buffed up. I think that's something I can expect the gameplay to shift towards, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that's a prediction I'm making. And also, they did nerf the buffs, however. Like the buffs are definitely not nearly as impactful anymore. And also, a big thing to note is that after 20 minutes, the buffs won't transfer anymore. So if you kill someone with a blue buff, you won't get it anymore. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? The reason they gave here is just so that not everyone is permanently buffed up. So I think that's a very good change. But before 20 minutes, you will still get the buffs. So yeah. And then here, like they also say, there's no pictures for this, but I assume like it says like after the elemental rift is locked in, so after the second Drake, they also become like draconic sentinels basically, and they will give you like the dragon buff, the respective one, I assume. So yeah, it says your respective buff. So I think this is actually nice. This is a pretty indirect jungle buff, I would say, because usually the jungler will get this, and then one other person can get it the same way one other person can get the red or blue buff right now. So I actually really like this. This could for sure be nice for junglers, having the infernal buff or whatever. And then this is also a nice little change, I think. It's kind of funny. It's just gonna, I think, pop out like a Scryer's Bloom basically in all directions, and I think in all directions, did it say? Doesn't really say, just say sends out, but it could be interesting, just like revealing everything in an area. I just really like these changes because they're fresh, like it's gonna be different gameplay, which I think League definitely has needed over the last couple of years. The last couple of seasons were really underwhelming change-wise. Then they also added 3 new Nashs, which is really cool. I don't know if it's like at random which one spawns. I would assume so. So one of them, they just have different abilities. I'm not really gonna go into it. But I guess we'll just find out when we play the game, right? I can't even really imagine how exactly it looks like anyways. So yeah, just know there's 3 different Barons with 3 different pits actually. You can see, like, this is the standard one basically. Then there's this one. And the most interesting one is actually this. I really like this. Oh, I didn't even see this one at first. Okay, so it's more like shifted towards the side, the entrances. So yeah, very cool. I just like, I like having variation in my League of Legends games. It just keeps things fresh. It won't make it feel as boring if you queue up a bunch of games in a row. So definitely very cool. Love these changes. Let's see how they will look like in game, but overall, like just on a surface level here, looking at them, I really like them. Okay, so let's go into the terrain changes. I also really like them. I read all of these texts before, as I said, to just summarize them basically. So these top lane changes they made just so top lane isn't like as one-sided anymore basically, and not as influenced by junglers and other lanes, because I think that's definitely something most people will agree on, is that like one top laner usually at the moment, or like in the last season, they would just go 0-10, and they would just get completely dominated, and that's like a very, very common occurrence, and it just made games very frustrating to play for everyone, having to play against a fat top laner. So these changes, this wall, for example, makes it so this top lane tower is not nearly as accessible anymore. And overall, they just made it so both sides are just similar, and they did the same thing on bot lane. And then this brush also, I think, is good. The reason they put this brush here is so this is like a very common warding spot now. Before like warding in the brush was not even that good. Usually you should have left the ward here, but now you just leave the ward here, and it makes sense basically. So what do these changes mean for Ekko? I think Ekko specifically, he's a quite good diver. You can E over this wall here. So I think for Ekko, this might overall be a like positive change compared to some other junglers who have a much harder time ganking here. So yeah, as I said, I think good change for Ekko overall, but we'll see how it is in reality. And of course, just overall, I think these lanes are a little bit more open now. So you will generally just be spotted a bit earlier if you walk through the river for ganking. So I think it might really become a diving meta, but of course diving is always gonna have a risk to it. So yeah, really like these changes. I think this might just make games more controlled, which of course is good for a scaling champ like Ekko. Like it might have the effect that lanes, especially top lanes, that they don't go nearly as out of control anymore. Okay, so mid lane changes also very interesting. On the one hand, of course, the brushes were pushed back. So the reasoning for this basically was just that mages are more viable now, or like low mobility champions, which I think is fair. Of course, Ekko's not really a mage, but I don't mind these changes. I always thought, like in the recent patches, that walking through here for ganking is not really optimal for Ekko anyways. Of course, now you probably can't go here anymore. Like I assume if you ward here, you will get spotted, which I'm actually not so sure now that I look at it, but we'll see. So maybe like ganking over the Rift Herald or Dragon Walls will be more meta now for ganking mid. But yeah, definitely very excited to see how these changes affect the ganking. And then of course also these paths are opening up, which will make diving easier for mid lane for sure. Like just walking in here and then diving. At the same time, though, I think that the reason, like the main reason they added this is just so you have like river access, as the laner. Because oftentimes, right now, what happened was that this path was, of course, here. So if you're getting bullied in lane, you just really can't walk there. So you would have to walk all the way around here to ever walk into the river. And now there's just a more direct path that you can't really get zoned away from as easily. So I think also a good change. And yeah, you can see like they're talking about desires and brands that they want to have in mid lane. So yeah, overall, like this change. And then here, this one is definitely a big one. You can see like first of all, of course, the brush here similar to top lane, but this here opening up this path for diving. Oftentimes when you wanted to dive red side, you had to walk all around here, or you would E over and then you would have to wait. So now it's just like a clear path there, and they also mentioned that they think this is like the most risky change they made to the map, because it could for sure be the case now that red side is just way too easy to dive. So we'll see, but I think for junglers specifically and for Ekko, this is definitely a welcome change. Like you're gonna have a much easier time diving on red side now. So yeah, very interested to see how this shakes out in gameplay. And then this one, I think, no joke, this wall is amazing for Ekko. Like this wall is actually great because you just have another wall to stand behind and cast your W from, when fighting in the river. Which I think, Ekko is one of those champs that really might benefit from this wall specifically more than most other champs. So I think I like it a lot. Again, I haven't played with it yet, so I don't really know, but I think it's great. And also, I'm actually a fan of the fact that they removed the brush here. I don't know, just having this area be more open and having this kind of brush here, it just looks better, I don't know, it looks better gameplay-wise, but again, it's really hard to tell if I haven't played. But yeah, overall, I think this wall might actually really benefit Ekko, and yeah, just could be really nice. Yeah, I don't know. Infernal terrain also, of course, changed now that they changed this, but there's no pictures for it, so no point really looking at it. Huey got 3 base armor, doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Okay, this is what's interesting. Jungle damage adjustment. So what they did here basically is just that they reduced like bonus damage. So junglers like Karthus or Graves, they just clear a little bit slower. Or it's just everything is just more in line now. Like jungle clear speed is more in line now. I'm sure these champions will still clear faster than tanks, but the difference is just not going to be as big anymore, because what they did here is just the pet damage per second went from 15.5 to like 20 to 90. So it's like a massive increase in pet damage. I really hope they also fix the pet actually attacking, because it was really annoying, the fact that it sometimes doesn't attack the small raptors, for example. So I really hope this is also fixed at the same time, because otherwise, of course, this is kind of a nerf anyways. But yeah, no scalings or anything changed here, so definitely interested to see how this will feel for Ekko, personally. And then this is the most interesting stuff, of course. Items. Mythics removed, so let's see. Mage items. Okay, Riftmaker. I'm just gonna say, like, Riftmaker is still not gonna be built on Ekko. Same with this item. This is basically like a Swain item, I would say. Lune's Companion, similar. It's not really gonna be built on Ekko, it's more of a mage item. This is it though, like Storm Surge. Man, this item looks amazing for Ekko, I have to say. Perfect stats, like these are all the stats that Ekko wants. 100 AP, great. 10 magic pen, great. 5 movement speed, great. Like he loves movement speed. And then this passive, like both passives are actually really good, Dealing 35% of champions max health within 3 seconds. Something that Ekko basically will always do with his stats if he just procs his passive. Will give you 25% movement speed, so this basically just supercharges your passive, I'm very curious to see how this will feel, like getting 25% movement speed bonus on your passive procs. Of course, it has a 30-second cooldown, but just like for bursting, doing like the first burst of the fight is gonna be amazing, I assume. Then also this Storm Surge passive. After 2 seconds, Storm Surge strikes the target with dealing like 120 to 260, which is actually very solid damage, plus 40% AP. Like this is a very good scaling for item damage, I have to say. So this is really great. And then even if they die to the lightning or before the lightning strikes, it detonates immediately in a large area around them, and you gain 30 gold. So this can even, like in some teamfights where there's people close together, you might be able to deal like a lot of damage with this if you just get a really nice passive proc. And then, of course, the 30 gold is nothing to be like scoffed at. So I think the 30 gold alone might be the reason why you should be building this item as your first item, of course. Yeah, sure, you need to like last hit, I guess, for it to even trigger. If I don't, yeah, I think you really need to be lasting with this for the 30 gold to trigger. But still, like if you just last hit someone, you might just get it. Wait, actually, let me just read this. Does it even have a cooldown? It doesn't really say that it has a cooldown, which is kind of weird. Is this reliant on this? I don't even really know. It's kind of weird that this doesn't seem to have a cooldown. So I'll have to see how this or how this is actually playing out in game. But I mean, if this wouldn't have a cooldown, it would be really OP. I have to say. But yeah, I assume it might be tied to this cooldown then. So yeah, it might be difficult to proc for the 30 gold, but if it's not that difficult, then it's great, you know, like 30 extra gold is not nothing, for sure. It will definitely help snowballing a little bit. Then, next up we have the exact rocket belt changes, sorry. Which are actually, like, I have heard, like, mixed reviews on this. Of course, as someone that hasn't played with the item, I can't really tell. That they made it a lot cheaper, like, a lot cheaper. But at the same time, they also shifted the stats more to like a bit more defensive stats. So no more magic pen from it, for example, and less AP and all of this stuff. So we'll see how this feels for Ekko, but definitely like getting it early can be good. You know, it can definitely be good. And then also another smaller change is the movement speed towards the enemies getting reduced. So in some scenarios, this definitely will matter. You know, sometimes you might be able to catch up to people when you're like eating forward and then using it and you get the extra movement speed. Now that won't be the case. So you really need to know your ranges better now with the rocket belt changes. But overall, I think this is probably a pretty, I would call this like a side grade, you know? It's not really an upgrade, it's not really a downgrade, it's just like different, you know? It's cheaper, but also less powerful. So overall, I think this probably not gonna be like problematic for Ekko. And it could even be positive, the fact that you can have this earlier or quicker. Now, Cosmic Drive, I think Cosmic Drive is definitely better than it is at the moment for Ekko. I still think it's probably not going to be like a main item for Ekko, in my opinion. And also, what I think is kind of weird here, it says like damaging an enemy champion with an ability grants this movement speed, but it doesn't really say for how long. So I don't know. That kind of also depends, you know, how long it actually gives the movement speed for. It kind of depends on how good the item is for Ekko. But overall, these stats, I mean, they're pretty good for Ekko. They're like decently good for Ekko, I would say. It's just not more damage, it's more movement speed. And honestly, like Ekko has enough movement speed, especially if he has the Storm Surger, of course. Yeah, Haunting Guys is just the item. It was already in the game some time ago, now they added it back to build into some items. Hextech Alternator, like this, I love this change, you know? They removed the HP from it, now it just gives 50 AP. So yeah, I think it just, like, before it was 25 AP, so a lot more AP, and the passive is still the same, but, like, this shift over from AP and HP to just AP is really good for Ekko, so now you will probably just always build this item, if you can. Yeah, Landry is not an item for Ekko. Horizon Focus, this is also not an item for Ekko, but I think it's a really interesting change, what they did here with this passive, you know? So when you reveal an enemy, with this passive, you also reveal all other champs around. So it actually provides some interesting utility now. Another interesting change, they removed Stopwatch. Now Seeker's Armguard basically has the stasis active, which I think is a good change, you know? It's just much more expensive now. So like the Stopwatch was for sure an item that in high elo a lot of people would just build because the stasis active, of course, can be very impactful, and now it's just gonna be a much bigger commitment, and probably only one that champions that go for the Zhonya's, like that actually go for the Zhonya's will commit to. You know, I think this is a good change for sure. And this item actually, like, I think this might be slept on, guys. I think this could be an item for Ekko. So the stats are pretty decent, like 60 AP. It's not very high AP, which is probably the biggest drawback from buying it for Ekko, but 30 Magic Pen, like, this is not something you can sleep on. Like, 30 Magic Pen is a lot. Of course, this is, like, I think you can only build this one or Void Stuff, but what I really like this doesn't sound bad, you know? When you get a takedown on an enemy champion within 3 seconds of damage damaging them. Create a healing nova on their location that heals allies for 50 plus 50% AP. So let's say you have like 1000 AP in like late game, you will just heal everyone for 500 HP, which is not bad. Like, it really kind of depends on how big the healing nova is and whatever, but this is for sure an item I will test out, because 30% magic pen definitely makes up for the 60% AP, 60 AP, and also the fact that the cost is actually quite low. You know, like, you'll see in a second, Void Stuff cost was increased, so yeah, it might not be bad. I'll definitely test it out. Or it might be good in certain games, you know, against certain comps, who knows. Shadow Flame. Like, Shadow Flame is, I think, to me, it feels like an item. Like, the stats are, of course, like, full offensive, no more HP. So it could be nice for Ekko, and the passive changed, like, the magic damage and true damage critically strikes enemies below 35% health. So what this basically means is that it's gonna be like a kill harder kind of passive. It's gonna synergize with Ekko's W passive, but it also might mean that you will overkill because of it, you know. So I don't know, like, it might be good in games where you really just want to full on one shot, because it just still gives a lot of AP and like 10 flat magic pen, which is always nice. But I don't know if it might be overkill to kill squishy targets. We'll have to test it out. Maybe it's better for Ekko, maybe it's worse. We'll really have to see. Definitely interesting changes though. This one really nice. Like, all of these changes really nice. You know, Amp Tome just 400 gold now makes it just makes it a little bit easier to build, of course. So great change for Ekko, or like any AP champ. Blasting one, 5 extra AP, nice. Needlessly Lord Throat, 10 extra AP, very nice. And then these changes I actually also like, also for Ekko. Zhonya's gonna be more expensive. It's also gonna give more AP now though. So that just makes it so... You know, what always felt bad about building Zhonyas and Banshees, of course, is the taking away from carry potential, you know? And now that's not really the case anymore, because they give substantially more AP. Yeah, they also lose some ability has, but you don't care so much about that. So now I think Zhonyas is definitely a better item for Ekko in games where it has good value, and like maybe even in games where it previously didn't have great value. So maybe just against AD heavy teams, you might just build it because the stats are very good. Yeah, it's more expensive as well now, but just the problem used to be that you were missing out on a bit of scaling if you built them. So now I don't think that's the case anymore. And Banshees, I mean, Banshees is quite a bit more expensive now, but what you'll also see in a second here, like, first of all, same thing, more AP, more magic resist, no more ability has, but I think overall good for Ekko. What's really nice, like, they changed this item. Like, this item always felt terrible to buy, I have to say, like, terrible. Same with the Seeker's Armguard, in my opinion. So what they did now is just that they gave this the spell shield already with a higher cooldown. So, and also actually more AP. So this item just feels much better to buy now. Of course, it's also more expensive, but yeah, I think these defensive items definitely have become more viable for Ekko in like a somewhat core build. Okay, yeah, these items are not for Ekko. Then Rabadons, they changed, like, they gave it 20 extra AP, but they also decreased the ability power magical opus thing from like 40% to 35, so it's kind of hard to, like, I didn't do the math, I don't know how much this will actually shift things around, but yeah, I guess it's probably not gonna change too much overall. And then you can see here the Void Stuff, it's a little bit more expensive than the other magic pen item, and it gives more AP. It gives like 20 more AP and just 10% for more magic pen. Like, I no joke could expect that the other item is better. Like, just because this like 500 or whatever healing in the late game is not nothing, and it also gives ability S as well, and it's 150 gold cheaper. So I'm not gonna predict anything, but I think this could actually be a sleeper item for Ekko compared to Void Stuff, because it's only 10% magic pen, which is definitely something, but it's also not everything, you know. Especially because magic penetration is like, it gives diminishing returns basically, you know. So the more you take away, the less the damage increases at some point. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Okay, Lichbane. So Lichbane is an interesting one, because I've heard people say that you shouldn't be building it on Ekko anymore, but I don't know if that's true, you know. Like, they increased the AP, which is really nice, and the rest of the stats are unchanged. And a big reason to build Lichbane was always the movement speed, guys. Like, it was always the movement speed. And, of course, what's still the exact same is just the AP scaling on the Spellblade, which is insane. 50% AP, really great for Ekko, definitely helps his burst quite a bit. And people say you don't build this anymore because of this. Because like this is genuinely just a buff, you know? Like this is not a nerf for Ekko at all. Like it might not be useful, the Spellblade granting 50% attack speed, but it's also not like a, it doesn't make it a bad item for Ekko. So I think people saying that you shouldn't build Lichbane anymore are wrong, in my opinion, because the stats are simply better, you know? And then Nashor's, I mean, Nashor's got nerfed a bit. It's probably still very much playable. It's only 10 AP, and it's also cheaper for that, but I've always been of the opinion, or not always, but more recently I've been of the opinion that Lichbane just fits Ekko's more natural playstyle better. You know, like the in and out skirmish playstyle compared to the playstyle with Nashor's where you need to auto attack all the time and probably take too much damage. So yeah, I think people saying Lichbane. Yo, actually, let me see. See, like I think this is, for example, not even bad for jungle clearing. Yeah, like people only think about the fact that this might not help too much with attacking enemies, especially if you play Hail of Blades. But for jungle clearing, this will still proc, right? So you'll just get 50% attack speed. Maybe I'm interpreting this wrong. I'll have to play with it, but I definitely think this is still playable 100%. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to play Lichbane anymore. And then the morale change I think is very interesting. So they basically just removed all the extra stats from it and just made sure it's a cheap item to buy if you want anti-healing. That's basically it. It's much cheaper now, of course. So I think this item, it might still be one that you slot in every now and then as Ekko, but I feel like at this point you might just buy the Oblivion Orb. Like that could definitely be the case, you know? So just like invest the 800 gold for the Oblivion Orb and then sit on it. You don't really need these stats, at least for Ekko. Then the fighter and diver items, of course, not super important. I'm just gonna go into some of them that might also affect overall gameplay and Ekko gameplay. Basically, Hullbreaker change. Love this change. I'm so happy they did this finally. That just basically the champion that has it doesn't gain any more armor and MR. Only the siege and super minions gain it. So it's not gonna be an item that squishy guys built anymore. I assume. I really hope so. So yeah, these items, I'm not gonna go too much into them. I guess I'm gonna look at the MR items, see how they changed. I actually have not taken a look at this. And I guess new items, let's see. This is an MR item. No. Okay, ultimate ability has interesting. Is this like a Kesanta item? I don't know. This seems like it could be a Kesanta item. Might be too squishy though, I don't know. Interesting. Definitely interesting items. I will have to take a look at those as well. But I think these are like not super interesting for this video because they don't really affect Ekko. Let's see this one though. Okay, Wit's End actually getting stronger. Wow, what the fuck? Wit's End is actually getting so... It's 400 gold cheaper, gives more MR, more attack speed. Okay, no more AD, which might make it like weaker for some champs, but tenacity. Okay. Let's see what this does. No more movement speed, which I guess could make a difference as well. Okay. I think it's actually a bit of a buff for the item, probably. Okay, so a bunch more items that just gain some tenacity. Interesting. Okay, tank items, let's see. Okay. I don't know, like, I don't want to read all these, to be honest. I think when it comes to like this, we'll just have to see what feels bad to play against after playing against them for a bunch of games. But yeah, I don't think they affect Ekko to that. I mean, they will affect Ekko for sure because people will be building them, but I think it's very hard to make predictions on this. I'm mostly just looking to see how the MR values change, maybe. So yeah, any other changes actually that I didn't see? Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not gonna read through all of these because, again, they don't really... Okay, actually this is interesting because it also affects Ekko. Okay, so they just made this item better, which is of course like just cheaper. It's probably not gonna change too much though. Oh yeah, let's see. Actually, I've heard people say you can maybe build Kraken because it has an AP scaling or something. Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't say anything about it. I don't know. Let's see actually the Ginsus anything here. Yeah, I think these items are probably not going to be buildable for Ekko in an actual build. Okay, rapid fire is a little bit better for Ekko again because it has more attack speed, but it's still not gonna be like a great item for Ekko. Let's see static. Please tell me that I don't fucked it up again. Wait, okay. So what did they change? No more scalings or what? And it also hits way less targets. Okay, so yeah, I think it's probably a healthy change for the game. They really just want LB to stop building this item. Because I think there's still been LB players that played with it. Okay. Okay, let's see this for Ekko support, honestly. I think there might be a world where Ekko support is kind of nice. Because this actually is good, you know? Ekko can now, like, he does not rely on like poking enemies because you kind of had to build the blue support item if you wanted to play Ekko support, and now you can also just clear minions, which in some lanes is definitely nice. But you can still do both, which I think is cool. Let's see, what are the ones you can opt into? Hey, what? Is there a sleigh? No. Okay, okay, never mind. Is there like a... Okay, maybe this... Okay, this doesn't have an AP scaling though, which kind of sucks. Ekko support, you know, like the fact that he can build Rocket Bolt earlier or easier is definitely not bad. What even is this though? Is this like I don't fully understand. Like, I think you can like choose one of them right from your... These are like the support item upgrades, I assume. Okay, this is definitely not for Ekko. Oh, maybe this? Okay, this doesn't seem amazing. Yeah, you're not gonna build any of these items with Ekko support anyways. Oh, let's see the starting items actually. No more Omnivamp inside lifesteal. Okay, I didn't even know this had Omnivamp. Lol. Restore more mana. Oh, I didn't even know how this works actually. Okay, so they just changed this very slightly. It probably doesn't matter. Okay, I'm not gonna read through all the Ornn stuff. Runes. Oh, they also added a new rune because they removed the perfect timing rune because stopwatch of course is removed. Oh. Ah, it's against minions. I read monsters first. You're just getting gold, which is interesting. It might be like one of those cookie cutter runes that some people just take because it gives gold. Oh, this is actually very interesting. Gain a skill point. Nah. This is so broken again. This feels so broken. Nah, I feel like this is too good. Like people underestimate like putting points. Like the reason levels are so good sometimes is also because of the skills, you know. Like not just because of the stats, but also because your skills deal more damage. And I feel like combined with this feels actually quite good. I'm also curious how much they sell for. I don't know if that's like a nice rune. I guess it's in the inspiration tree, right? So yeah, we'll have to see how this actually shakes out. Okay, so they buff towers, it seems like. Just more HP. And then also some backdoor damage reduction. Okay. Rank changes. I should have read through this as well, I guess. Okay, so they're not super happy with Emerald. I think nobody was, to be honest. Okay, so they decreased the LP gains a little bit. Yeah, guys, like you can read through this yourself, honestly. I don't need to read this for you. There's nothing to be interpreted here. Okay, so and also the new player placement. So I think that's definitely something that was really bad this season. Oh wow, and this is the most important change. You can now fist bump. I mean, that's actually kind of cool, I have to say. Wow. That's cool. Dynamic music. Okay, cool. I'm not playing with the music anyways. What's this? In-game quests. Oh, they added some in-game quests. That's interesting. Anyone for Ekko? Probably not. Let's see. Yeah, no, none for Ekko. Okay, so I think that's all the important changes. Any quality of life changes for Ekko? Can't really read through all of them. So yeah, I think overall, as I said, guys, very exciting changes for Ekko. I'm definitely gonna play some games now and just see how it feels. But yeah, overall, I think Storm Surge especially is an item that could be really amazing for Ekko. And overall, I think all of the item changes and the map changes very positive for Ekko. So yeah, if you're also excited for the new season, be sure to leave a like on this video. And yeah, I will definitely make videos after I played with all of these items and just see what the best Ekko build seems to be like. And with that, have a nice day, my fellow Ekko enjoyers. Bye.